Hey guys, sorry I haven't made a vlog for a very long time, but uni work has been very busy and I haven't really had much time to do anything else than uni work. One part of uni that's taken over my life is my software engineering module, in which we're working as small groups and designing a calendar application for a fictional business, and it is very heavy going work. However, in my software engineering group, I do have a fellow YouTuber, Matt Poskett, who can be found here, and I do suggest you go and watch his videos because they are quite good, and they are quite funny, and his music videos are really good. He's got covers and stuff, and yeah, just go and view it because it is quite a good channel. Today's video has been on the cards for a while, I've just never got round to it. However, last week, this subject hit press big time on BBC Wales's Week In, Week Out. The issue raised in Week Out was about how these horses up and down Wales are just being dumped. Where in my local area, they have been dumped in these very narrow lanes that get very dark at night with no sort of street lighting, and it is a big hotspot for boy racers. And there are a few blind spots that if you hit a horse on that, you'll know about it. I also know someone who was in a very minor car crash due to these horses being dumped on the lanes. Overall, the programme was very good, and it did make some very good and valid points. And overall, I do agree with what these people were saying. One of the big topics that was discussed was public safety, and how these horses being there and being in lanes, and even some of them have been in sort of school fields, how dangerous they are and how they are putting public in danger. I do believe the situation has got worse since we've been hit with the recession. Since the recession, sales of horses have slumped by quite a lot. People are selling horses they're not buying. That means that prices are going down, and dealers and gypsies are getting sort of very good deals for their horses, but dealers are starting to get far too many horses than what they know what to do with, and therefore they're stuck with maybe up to 200-300 horses that they have no idea where they're going to put, they have no idea how to keep, and therefore they do just send them out to fend for themselves. This, of course, is totally irresponsible, and this situation is putting the equine sort of society in a bad light. What annoys me about this programme was that one local council have taken the action to hire a horse warden, that when they get a tip off that there is a dumped horse in, say, some sort of wasteland, I'd guess you call it, that they would go and seize this horse and take it to whether a horse shelter, I guess. They didn't really go into too much detail. Now, this woman had been called that there was a dumped horse on wasteland. Basically, there was no sort of pasture, there was nothing edible really, and probably no proper water supply. And she seized the horse, took it to the local neighbouring housing area, and was asking people if they knew who owned this horse. Well, no horse owner would put their horse on wasteland where there is no sort of proper food and there is no proper water supply. So it was clearly dumped, and therefore she should not have, in my opinion, she should not have been asking round whose horse it was. And in this case, two boys sort of came up to him and was like, "Oh, this is my horse, this is my horse." To which she said, "Have you got passports for this horse?" And he said, "No, but I can get one." So obviously, again, that really should have rung alarm bells. But there was sort of this disagreement between her and these two boys, and she ended up giving the horse to these two boys. And I was really quite shocked that she did that, but I could see that, she doesn't have the power to fight these people. So although that specific council was obviously dealing with the issue, they weren't dealing with it in the correct manner. Something that I found out recently that I didn't know are that horses are classed as livestock, not as pets. This obviously is a big issue for the RSPCA. As far as they're concerned, it's not simply going in and seizing the horses, such as they can go in and seize a cat and dog if they think that it's being mistreated, such as they can just go knocking on the owner's door and say, "Right, your dog has been mistreated, we're going to seize it off you." Before the RSPCA can do anything, basically the horse has to be dying. That's basically my gist of it was. If anyone can confirm or deny that, that would also be very good. Now, one of the big issues on the programme was that no one really knows what to do with these horses. And it's not just, a group of 30, 40 horses. We're talking about hundreds up and down the country. And I do agree with the people that say they are causing a massive hazard and they are going to kill someone. And I don't deny that that is probably going to happen if something isn't done sooner rather than later. What people have to understand is the fact that we are in a sticky situation and councils and police just simply aren't equipped to deal with this kind of situation. Really, we've never had this bigger problem, but obviously it is starting to increase and councils and police do need a tactic plan, but they can't just go in and something's going to be on their desk in the morning. They have to start thinking, and they have to think logically in the way that it's going to please the most amount of people. For example, you can't just go in and say, right, shoot all of them. Just shoot all of them, just destroy them all, because people are going to play absolute havoc. Me, for one, I don't think that, that is going to be the answer. On the other hand, they can't just go take them from that location and put them in that location, because you're going to end up putting strain on resources, such as fields or animal shelters, to where they probably would go. One sort of solution that is really getting me down is that ignorant people are going, oh, well, horse dealers are responsible for this mess, so let's just ban dealers. People are not allowed to deal horses, they're not allowed it to be as their sort of income or their job. Just ban horse dealers altogether. That's not fair, because I know a lot of horse dealers who are responsible, who deal responsibly, they buy responsibly. They don't buy more horses than they can afford, which is the situation that it is now, is that these dumped horses are clearly from people who have got too many horses and don't know what to do with them. That's not the case for all horse dealers. Not all horse dealers are stupid. Not all horse dealers buy for the sake of it. There are horse dealers who buy responsibly, who sell responsibly, and do look after the horses very, very well. One other solution was to rehome these horses, and not only to just animal shelters, but to put them out into homes. Now, I always believe that every person and every living thing deserves their happy ending. However, that's not going to be the case for all the horses. People have to understand that some of these horses are really worse for wear, that they really are staring death in the face, and it is really not a nice situation to have to deal with, but we do. There was what would have been an absolute lovely pony featured on this week in, week out programme, but instead he was an absolute and utter pitiful sight. He had no meat on him, he was literally a bag of bones. His fur, his mane and his tail were matted and in a horrific state, and they found out he had worms and lice. Now, as far as I can remember, they didn't really show the ending to that pony, they didn't conclude it, but from what I saw, I would have imagined that horse would have been destroyed. What really gets me down about this situation is the stupidity and irresponsibility of just the minority has really wrecked it for the rest of us. Through the irresponsible actions of just a few, there has been a massive strain on our police and our councils, and it's really, really not fair that they've had to plough money into sorting this issue out when the money could be spent better elsewhere. What can the police and council do? They're not equipped to deal with this situation, and therefore people abusing them and sort of giving them gyp for this is really unfair, because either way, we're a lose-lose situation, and not everyone is going to be happy with the outcome. And not only are our police and our councils having strain put on their resources, let's not forget animal charities such as RSPCA and animal shelters for the horses to go to. With this situation, we really do have to be realistic. The horses in my local area have been there for a couple of months, and they have had to fend for themselves. So food supply is going down. Water supply is, I don't know where they're getting water from, really. We're in February, so it's not the best month for them to be outside without any rugs. And they're not in a great state. And with all this combining, their condition is getting worse and worse and worse. Through selfish acts of stupid people, horse rescue centres are really feeling the strain on this issue. They're dealing with masses of horses, having to get vets out to them, having to get more food out, having to get the farrier out to deal with their feet, the dentist to deal with any dental work these horses are going to need. The vets are coming out to vet them, and then probably most of those horses are going to have vet work. They're going to have to be wormed. You know, all these bills are going to have to be fronted up to the centres. And I would love to say that all these horses should be rehomed with loving owners and, you know, a fantastic home. But is that going to be the best for every horse that is out there who has just been abandoned? Well, some of these horses are really fighting for survival, and you know, it's only going to be a couple of weeks until we start seeing a decrease in numbers, and not only because they're being moved on, but because they're starting to die out. I personally think the best thing we could do right now is to divide those horses into those who are good enough to go to a new home or to be nursed, who will have a fighting chance to be nursed back to health, and those who are just past being helped, and maybe the best thing that they can do for those horses is to have them put down. And it is a horrible thought to think that these innocent horses have just been dumped, have been made to survive for themselves, and now they're looking death in the face and they're about to have a gun put to their head. And that is a horrible thought. And, you know, it is a horrible way to think of it, and that isn't the solution. But it has been too little too late, and that is the solution for some of these horses. And look at the reality of what we've got ourselves into. By law, horses have to have a passport, and they have to be microchipped or freeze marked. So before the owners can do anything, that has to be sorted out. That bill has to be fronted by somebody innocent. Say the horse does go to a new home. That horse is going to have to be vetted. What if something's wrong with it? That vet's bill is going to have to be confronted and dealt with by someone who is not responsible for having that horse in that bad a condition. And okay, it is too little too late, as I've said, but we also have to realise that we are likely to get into this situation again. And therefore, I really think that we need to have some sort of tactical plan, because the long-term solution is not having these horses destroyed or having them put into new homes, because that means that person who's responsible for putting those horses into the wild and making them fend for themselves is not actually taking responsibility for their actions, and they are not being punished for their stupidity and irresponsibility. This was originally put into the press when I think it was about 30 horses were let onto this park kind of area. It was like a nature reserve kind of thing. I don't know how to explain it. And yeah, they'd eaten everything. These horses had eaten every single thing that was edible, and the ground was just mud. And there was these horses just looking in an absolute sorry state. There was some lying on the floor, and they panned to this one dead horse and amongst the bare trees. And I never ever want to see what I saw. That footage I never want to see again. And that one dead horse lying in amongst the trees away from everything is probably going to haunt me for the rest of my life. And I really do not want someone to die because they drive into a horse, and I don't want horses to needlessly be destroyed.